everyone, it's Dr. Rick with an unboxing of Cordyceps. Cordyceps by Host Defense. I love Host Defense. I just did a video on cold and flu, and I love the use of medicinal mushrooms. But of the companies that make medicinal mushrooms, Host Defense has been my favorite. It used to be called something else, and then I forget what happened, but this has always been my go-to. I haven't used Cordyceps in a while because I've been okay with my wakefulness and my energy. But I used to use this to, number one, hopefully enhance my exercise performance, which I don't remember doing when I used it. But number two, it would give me a little burst of energy before. So I think it's good. Well, we're going to talk about this now. So there have been a lot of animal studies on Cordyceps that have said pretty decent results with regards to, this is one on natural killer cells. That's your immune system. And this is one on animal studies with regards to exercise endurance. This is a nice one as far as a double-blind placebo on a small group of elderly individuals. It's very small, so like a group of 20 people. But again, with the 20 people, they did a double-blind placebo-controlled. It gives it more value, although that N of 20 is a little bit weak. And then I have a couple others that I read through as far as the biomechanics of the properties of Cordyceps. So Cordyceps is essentially a fungus. I think that's why they have this little picture here. It's a weird fungus because it's a fungus that grows, has a parasitic fungus on the back of the caterpillar larvae. And it's supposed to, as it grows bigger than the larvae and actually destroys the larvae. So, kind of weird if you see pictures of it online. Check it out. However, its benefits are pretty decent. Like all mushrooms, China has so many big studies on the use of mushrooms. We don't have that kind of study bank here. I'm not sure why. But we eat mushrooms. I guess there's a dichotomy. People know of mushrooms as nice accents, but they also know of mushrooms as poisonous. So it's like, okay. Now, I think the Polish community, I have a lot of Polish patients that go and pick mushrooms. I remember taking a couple groups out hiking, and we would be in the middle of the woods and we see other people just with bags looking for mushrooms. And it was pretty cool. I don't know, they're probably very good. They're expert at figuring out what's poisonous, what isn't poisonous, but this is not poisonous. However, let's talk about the thing itself. So I would use this, I started using this a long time ago. I think it was the 93, or somewhere around the Sydney Olympics. There was controversy that the Chinese running team, the women's running team, had taken several different world records, and it was highly suspect that they were cheating, and they were probably blood doping. But the coach back then, I forget his name, but he said he had only given them this, Cordyceps. Now, I'm not sure if it was Cordyceps militaris or Cordyceps sinensis, but it was still a mushroom. Supposedly, that's all he did to his runners after training. So he would train his usual female runners, then he'd give them this supplement, and again, they took gold, and they haven't had that many wins that in one year, 4-year Olympic time period ever since then, as far as I know. I think there was one with the Chinese volleyball team, but anyway, they were clear. They didn't find anything, but he's still holding his stance that he only gave him this. So this is the mushroom, or at least this is the capsule, kind of small. A dose of this is 2 capsules. That's what it comes in. So 2 capsules every morning. So if you're going to do this, you do 2 capsules every morning. It has about 1 gram of Cordyceps militaris. That is the ingredient label, if you want to read that. And it has some polysaccharide in it too. But there's some variability when I was looking on the shelf. Nature's Way has a pretty good Cordyceps, and I think Gaia brand too. But again, when there's no reviews on Consumer Labs, I just go with my trusted companies. I like Host Defense because of what they did with the spray that I use for cold and flu. Again, I'll put the link down below for that video. I believe I have about 5 different mushroom products that I use with my cold and flu concoctions. But what I would do is, if you have fatigue, if you tried everything to reset your circadian rhythm, And FYI, I am going to be doing, with the time shift coming up in the fall, I'm going to be doing another video on resetting your clock. And essentially, when the time period changes and you're either given an hour or taken an hour away from your usual sleep, it sometimes rocks everybody's world, especially if you're on the fringe of having a sleep disorder anyway, and it's very annoying. So sometimes what I'll do is, to prepare for the time shift, I will say, get ready to reset your clock. And all you have to do is adjust everything, your time that you sleep, the time that you wind down, and the time that you wake up, just by an hour. But if you're already set, in addition to your meals per day, everything shifts over. But if you're set and you still have problems with waking up in the morning, I do this, 2 capsules of this every morning. Now, I always say that when you take herbs, you have to be patient, because it's like adding a vegetable to your diet. You can't expect that if you take spinach every day for 2 days that your cholesterol will drop or your glucose will go down. You have to do it over a course of time. Now, if you add this as far as a stimulant in the morning, I'd say you should expect something within a month. I used to use this all the time. I don't know. I don't remember why I stopped using it. I think it's because D-ribose became more popular, and I see a lot of fibromyalgia patients. And D-ribose is a great energy booster in the morning, especially if you have fibromyalgia. D-ribose is a sugar, though, and as you know, in the recent 5 years, everybody's either fasting, intermittent fasting, fasting mimicking diet, or they're keto. And you don't do a sugar in the morning when you're keto or you're fasting, because it just screws up. Taking a sugar in, like D-ribose, or for that matter, Starbucks cafe mocha latte or whatever it's called, that's 500 calories and 50 grams of carbohydrates. Doing any of that with sugar in the morning jacks up your insulin, and that's a bad thing. You shouldn't really be spiking your insulin in the morning. Not to go off into a tangent, but that's why when I do hemoglobin A1Cs for my diabetics, I don't just do that, because a lot of my diabetic looking people will have normal hemoglobin A1Cs. That's a 3-month test that we get in the blood. We'll have normal looking hemoglobin A1Cs, but if I check their insulin level, they're off the charts. Or if I check a 2-hour glucose tolerance test, off the charts. So I don't like the hemoglobin A1C. It's okay as far as a directional marker to say, okay, we're getting better, we're getting worse, let's go ahead and initiate change. But I'd rather do the other two. The 2-hour glucose tolerance test is too long, the insulin's easy to get. Anyway, this, instead of D-ribose, might be a nice alternative. So if you're going to do this as an experiment for a month, what I would do would be just make sure that your exercise routine and your eating times, your meal times, your sleep times, and your morning times, and your morning coffee are all stable. And then if you're still having problems with getting up in the morning, try to add this, 2 capsules of this every morning. And do that for about 30 days, but don't change anything else. And then that's a really good experiment to see, did adding this to your regime for 30 days make a difference in your energy level? And you might have to journal a couple things, but if it did, great, continue with it. I don't see any downsides. If you look at the studies on either animal or just the data of side effects, if anything, there's good effects. Now, there might be, I've seen a couple of smaller studies that I just looked at or browsed through. I didn't print them up, they were too small. They're saying that autoimmunity, if you have MS or if you have lupus or rheumatoid arthritis and you're on medicines, it can screw up a couple things. So I probably would say, if you have those 3 things, maybe be careful. Also, there might be some anticoagulant effect to this. So if you take, say, a blood thinner, you might have to be careful. Again, just play it by ear. If you're older, late 60s or 70s, and you take a blood thinner, you definitely wouldn't mess around with this, because with high blood pressure, blood thinners, weak blood vessels, it's easy to bleed into your brain. I doubt that will really happen, but I wouldn't take a chance. So at least send me a comment or ask your doctor about this if he understands herbal medicine. If you don't have any problems, I don't see why it's going to hurt. In fact, it does. There are some studies with renal transplant teams. The kidney transplants occur when you have a kidney failure and you go to dialysis, and then you get on the donor list, and then you suddenly get a new kidney from somebody that matches. Well, when you get the new kidney, even if they match, you will still mount a response to attack that foreign body. So people who get kidney implants or transplants have to be on cyclophosphamide, prednisone, things to calm down the immune system to not attack and they have to be on those things for life. So there have been some studies using cordyceps and the cyclophosphamide and having better renal function for some reason. So I didn't read deep into the study, but that's a positive. So we have a couple positives. Theoretically, the kidney protection. There's also some information about its use for helping hepatitis B sufferers with liver backup, and then the energy thing. So whether it enhances, whether it just gives you energy in the morning or it enhances your exercise, I'll tell you anecdotally about the exercise because I'll use it for the next 30 days. There's 60 capsules and there's 2 per day, so I'm going to add this to my routine. I'm finished my fasting mimicking diet experiment, and I'll post great results on that soon, but I'm going to add this to see if I can accelerate the muscle responsiveness I got from my fasting mimicking diet. So I'll put a link down below on that thing. Unbelievable gains of that, but I think this might give me a little more energy. I work out fasted and I work out in the morning, so sometimes aside from listening to Metallica, it's hard to get the juices of epinephrine, endorphin, and enkephalin and noradrenaline going, so I might have to have a cup of coffee, but now I'm going to try this for a month, so I'll let you know what happens after the month. Especially, I'll let you know when the time period comes that we have to shift. I don't remember when fall behind occurs, but sometimes if there's a change in an hour or two, you're gonna have to reset your circadian rhythm, move everything back by 1 or everything forward by 1 in the spring. It doesn't sound like it matters, but to people that are on the verge of fatigue, it matters. So I think this might be a nice thing to accentuate your shift, so that you don't get too sleepy, and if you wake up a little early, or if you're an early morning riser and you like to exercise, this might give you a little pump, especially if you can't tolerate coffee because of palpitations or reflux. So that is it in a nutshell. I'll put some links down below to the previous video I did on other herbs by, I said specifically mushrooms, but herbs on my cold and flu video. And if you have any comments down below, if you used either Cordyceps sinensis or Cordyceps militaris, please let us know how you thought and which companies you use. I'll see you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the alert button to find out when I do new videos. Otherwise, I'll see you at the next unboxing.